Air, which is critical of new construction projects due to the lack of water in the region, has to weigh the plant curve and oil. So all too familiar, but obviously this would be a very similar process that Tesla went through before. Hopefully they've learned some things in that process. Certainly Tesla caused some delays in that process, particularly with their battery factory plans, and on the other side, some of the approvals had to be redone, and that cost quite a few weeks. So definitely some potential there for things to go a little bit more smoothly, but RBB does also note that citizens and associations can send in questions and comments, and they say that because this is in a high water production area, a lot of discussion could arise, and they say that overall it should be at least June 2023 before Tesla can start construction. And of course, going all the way back to the very early days of Giga Berlin, there is forest on this site, so like the first time around, if Tesla does clear that, they'll have to replant trees elsewhere, which I think they would end up doing anyway. So it might be a lengthy process, but no better time to start working through that than right now. Hopefully soon we can start talking about how the potential output for Tesla there at Giga Berlin is underappreciated the same way that we're talking about Giga Shanghai, which, by the way, it's been, 2 days since we talked about Giga Shanghai expansion, and here we're already talking about Giga Berlin expansion. People are going to continue to underestimate the growth that Tesla is shooting for. Anyway, speaking of China, we do have a small update on Giga Shanghai here, well, possibly a small update. A possible update coming from an article out of China, which is reporting on comments made yesterday by the Deputy Secretary of the Lingang New Area Management Committee during a press briefing. So this gave a lot of information about the number of companies in the area that had restarted production as of May 3rd, but then it goes on to say that on April 18th, SAIC Motors Lingang passenger vehicle plant launched a stress test for resumption of work and production. On April 19th, Tesla's Shanghai plant officially resumed work in production, with 8,000 employees on duty and a daily output of about 1,200 vehicles. So again, here we're left with a little bit of confusion. Is this number coming from the Deputy Secretary? Is this being added for context by the reporter? Are they saying that production was 1,200 per day on April 19th when it reopened? Are they saying that that was from when this update was on May 3rd? I don't think any of those are clear enough to be able to draw a conclusion from, and this number doesn't necessarily tie up with another report that we have heard. Because of that, I'm not sure there's a lot we can take away from this, but I suppose if we were to take the most bearish interpretation of that, it would suggest at least 1,200 per day as of May 3rd, so that would mean that Tesla is at least at slightly above 50% capacity. We'll get a little bit more insight on this soon when we get the China Passenger Car Association numbers for April. That should be sometime early next week. Alright, next we've just got a really quick update on Tesla Energy. As we have talked about before, PG&E and Tesla recently opened up the 730 megawatt hour Moss Landing substation. Tesla, as they have done with a few other energy storage projects, just released a quick video highlighting this achievement, so always nice to see those. Although I will say that the recent video of the Alaskan Megapack project that we had talked about probably edges it out a little bit on cinematography or visual appeal, but hey, this project is 20 times larger. Next up, we've got a couple of pretty significant updates on Elon Musk's attempt to acquire Twitter. Both of these could have an influence on Tesla. The first here has to do with financing. So Elon filed an updated 13D today, and it discloses a significant number of new financing commitments for the acquisition offer. So this is a total of $7.14 billion committed from 18 different entities, which we can see in this filing. A couple of noteworthy ones in here. You've got $1 billion from Larry Ellison, you've got $100 million from Ron Barron, and then perhaps the most intriguing name on this list is $500 million from Binance, which is of course the largest crypto exchange in the world. I think you'd have to assume that for them to be on board, there probably would have had to have been some conversations with Elon about his plans for possible crypto integration with Twitter. So interesting to see that, and then the filing also notes that Saudi billionaire Kingdom Holdings will be rolling over 35 million shares of Twitter into this merger. That'd be just shy of $2 billion worth at the offer price. So across these entities, that's about $9 billion in commitments for this offer. And that may not be all. The filing also says that the reporting person, Elon, is seeking and may receive additional financing commitments, possibly including existing shareholders, and the filing specifically calls out Jack Dorsey as one of those possible inclusions. So all of this lightens the capital commitment required from Elon, and even though this is only $9 billion, and we know the equity financing was structured to be $21 billion, Elon has adjusted the financing structure here, and the margin loan commitment has been reduced from $12.5 billion down to $6.25 billion. So I'm happy to see that. Tesla investors should be happy to see that. That greatly reduces the risk of any margin call to the point where really it shouldn't be a concern at all. And I'm also pretty happy that we discussed that as a possibility when Elon sold Tesla stock, because really didn't see that mentioned out there anywhere else. Most people were assuming that Elon was having to sell to cover that equity financing, but depending on the taxes that Elon ends up paying on those sales, the margin loan was reduced by a pretty similar amount to what Elon ended up selling in Tesla stock. The other update on Twitter is from CNBC, which is reporting that sources have told them that, quote, Elon Musk is expected to serve as a temporary CEO of Twitter for a few months after he completes his $44 billion takeover of the social media company, end quote. So that's just saying that sources expect that. That doesn't necessarily mean that that has been communicated by Elon, though I do think that that is likely. It also does say temporary, but I think we're all aware that that could turn into a longer appointment. So I think it's fair for Tesla investors to not really be thrilled about that.